If you are asking how to become a homeschool mom, I'm guessing it's because you're either preparing to become one or else you have gotten started, but you're not sure you're doing it right. Or maybe you have started, but are feeling a bit over your head. I have been there, and it's a place I will never forget.
Please?
You can help, yeah,
What?
go ahead.
You see this root?
Yep,
No! Put that back in!
we plant with the roots going down. Roots don't grow up. Roots grow down.
Put it right here. Good job.
Hello, homeschool mamas out there. I'm Shayla. I'm a second-generation homeschooling mom, and I have 6 children, ranging in multiple grades from senior all the way down to kindergarten. I've been doing this for 14 years now. What would have helped me most when I was desperate and asking how to become a homeschool mom would have been to come inside a homeschool mom's home and simply see her process. There are hundreds of how to get started with homeschool resources out there. That's not what this video is, because I know you don't need another how-to guide. I know you just need to see how people actually do this for real. Although we are a homesteading family, you should find enough takeaways from this video that you can adapt for your lifestyle. Keep in mind as you're watching this that there are probably as many ways to get this job done right as there are homeschool parents out there. And what you're watching is just one parent's way to get this job done. The worst mistake a person can make in this line of work is thinking there's only one right way to get the job done. I'm not going to show you a perfectly curated day in this video. I'm just going to show you a couple real days in hopes that this video blesses you in your homeschool journey and that it encourages you and inspires you in how to become a homeschool mom if you're just getting started, and that it strengthens you if you've been doing this a while but need a boost. Because believe me, I know how we all need encouragement on a consistent basis in this journey. Let's get started. My day usually starts between 4 and 6 o'clock. I've usually always had part-time work, and the only time I have to do that is in the early morning hours and the weekends. So in the quiet morning hours, I usually work for about an hour or so. Kids all start getting up around 7, and if they get up on time, they have 15 to 20 minutes to relax and wake up and prepare their minds for the day. Lately, our oldest son, who's a senior in high school, has been waking at 6:30. After his morning routine and exercising, he takes care of the chickens. Around here, breakfast is usually a group effort. I start teaching my children how to do their own breakfast starting around age 9 because they're kind of picky. And once they all know how to make their own breakfast, I usually let them pick and make whatever it is they want. It's a great way to get the kids to be more independent, and everybody's happy that way since everybody gets to have what they want. You know, I remember a time not too long ago where they were all too little to make their own breakfast, and during those times it really helped to have things like muffins and pre-prepared breakfasts on hand. Freezer breakfasts were great. Once a week I make up a big batch of bread and cakes and muffins so that we have those in the upcoming week ahead. And also I like to keep sausages, eggs, and oatmeal on hand, just for quick and easy breakfasts. Okay, I just have to say something here because I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, wait a minute, I have to make my own bread to be a homeschool mom? Huh? No, you don't. I make my own because that's a large homeschool family. And since we live on one income, for bread, for us, for a week, if we were to buy it, it would be like $100, so it's way cheaper for me to make it. Plus, we have some wheat sensitivities, and sourdough suits us better, so that's why I do this. But you do not have to make your own bread to be a homeschool mom. After breakfast, it's time for chores and dish duty. I have a chore chart system that I developed a few years ago. It's the only chore chart system that's worked for our family. The system goes beyond just simple chores. It also includes some habit training and some reminders for things like taking vitamins and proper self-care. Although I have to remind the kids to look at it almost daily, I at least do not have to remember each child's individual tasks and whose turn it is for what, so that is extremely helpful. While the kids are wrapping up breakfast, I usually grab a quick shower, and while they're working on their chores, I like to start considering a dinner plan. Today the kids decided they wanted hamburgers, and a couple of days ago on Sunday I prepared a large batch of bread, and it's been in the refrigerator still, so I'm going to take that bread that's been rising, sourdough, and I'm going to make it into loaves and hamburger buns. While I'm doing that, the kids are, of course, wrapping up their chores, and I think the oldest kids are getting started on their high school. I prayed long and very hard over how I wanted our homeschool year to go this coming year, and I started planning it last February. The prayers and the planning are definitely paying off. We started doing year-round homeschooling again, which is honestly much better for our family and the only thing that works for our family. I scheduled out that I would be teaching lessons that the kids need me for on Tuesday and Wednesday and Thursday, and that Mondays and Fridays the kids could do independent studies that they do not need me for. Since we started the beginning of August and we're doing year-round homeschooling with only July off, this means that we do not have as long of days or as many school days all crammed into what would be a traditional school year calendar. In addition to that, we have long winters where we live, so to be truthful, we actually have an abundance of study time once the snow flies. Okay, kids, I'm about done in here, and I think we're going to be ready to start our lessons in about 5 to 10 minutes. I find that especially with the younger kids, it helps them a lot if you give them a warning, like a 5 to 10 minute little buffer time, and let them know we're going to be starting school. So if I just say, okay, it's time for school right now, and they're doing something that they enjoy, or a little, like one of them is playing with Legos right now. The youngest one is 5 and he's playing with Legos. So if I just go up to him and say, we're going to do school now, his mind kind of gets like jolted and he doesn't have time to process. But if I say we're about to start school in a few minutes, it helps him prepare his mind, and he's in a much better place mentally to start doing his lessons. Before I started practicing that little tip, I would always get negative feedback from the kids. You know, I would come in and essentially interrupt what they were doing and kind of yank them off of it by saying, it's time to start school, let's go right now. And it didn't give them any time to process. And as soon as I started practicing that little tip, there was almost never a time where I've gotten negative feedback. They're ready. They're like, okay, you know, they have their warning and they're ready. And since I'm talking about that, and on that note, let's talk about preparing Mama's mind. Before I go downstairs to start teaching lessons, I like to make sure that I am mentally and physically in a good place to do so. I usually like to try to get a smoothie or something to keep my blood sugar up before I get started. And I've also found that for me, teaching is a lot more pleasant if I have something to sip on. And I usually like to have either a protein with collagen smoothie or tea with me, or coffee. I do drink some coffee. So while I am preparing to go downstairs, I'm gonna holler down to the kids that one last warning, I'm about to come down, so they know they need to be ready. And I'm going to make myself my tea here. We're going to talk briefly about homeschool rooms. Not going to lie, I have a lot of creatives, and this is what our homeschool room looks like a lot. The first few years of our homeschool journey, we did not have a homeschool room for probably 5 years. Eventually we got one, but all the kids were pretty little, and so the homeschool room always looked like this, and it was up to me to put it back together. During those years, I found it actually worked better just to do homeschooling at the dining room table. As the kids got older, and eventually I had kids in high school, middle school, elementary, and preschool, fitting all the books and supplies into one dining room became quite cumbersome and extremely messy all of the time. Now, believe it or not, there are actually people in the homeschool world that believe that having a homeschool room is morally and fundamentally flawed. Yeah, I know, right? When you have as many kids as we do, though, in various grades, and you homestead, a homeschool room becomes more of a necessity versus a debate topic. And the way I see it is you either need a homeschool room or you do not. And if you do not, then there really is no point in having one. But if you do need one, then you know and you actually need it. Another thing is when women start to go through premenopause, you lose the ability to multitask like you could before. For those of us with ADHD, a homeschool room is really nice because it helps us to separate things that would otherwise be distractions, making our anxiety go through the roof. I found that having a separate homeschool room has helped me and helped to greatly reduce the anxiety that I used to have by combining everything in one space. Ready to start our lessons in about 5 to 10 minutes. So go downstairs, make sure all of your art supplies and craft supplies are cleaned off the homeschool table downstairs, please. Okay? You guys be ready in about 5 to 10 minutes. Usually my announcement to go clean up the room works pretty well. It's not perfect, but it works pretty well. Other days, it doesn't work at all. I have this super handy bell. I have 2 of them, and whenever I want the kids to come running, I ring this bell, and it works very well. I even use this when the kids have friends over and they're all playing outside and I need them to come inside for meals. I used to get super frustrated with the kids when they would do this to the room. And every now and then that still creeps up on me, but I came to the realization that when I call them in and we go to work cleaning it up, it usually takes about 5 minutes with all of the hands we have around here. That's not called cleaning the room.
See?
Yeah. So it takes us like 5 minutes to get this room put back in order. So I learned, kids, you can make a mess. That's okay. But when you're done, you got to clean it up. And if you don't clean it up when you're done, you're going to have to clean it up eventually. My high schoolers and the 8th grader have already started on their studies. They are to an age now where I've got them to where I don't have to tell them, of course, go to your school, it's time to start. They start without my prompting. But something I almost forgot to tell you about that I find helps a lot is automating as much as I can. And one of the things that I use to automate is definitely an Alexa. I have an Alexa and it's got routines that do reminders throughout the day to help keep everybody on task. If you have a small family, you might not find this as helpful, but if you have a large family with a lot of kids, or if you have a lot going on, or if you have ADHD, or if you work from home, all of which I do, you probably will find this extremely helpful. Where's all the little green blocks? They're all missing. We're missing a whole bunch of little green blocks. Did you do something with them? This is not okay. You guys are going to have to find those little green blocks. Here's one over here on the floor. Oh, they're all over the place. That was a no-no. These are not toys. They're for your school. All right, let's see. I'm about to be ready. Last week's tea. I've been asked, how does a homeschool mom involve the dad or the father in the homeschool? So I would like to talk a little bit about that. In society, in our nation, so much of the teaching falls automatically on mothers, it seems. And I don't believe that God meant for it to be like this to the extent that it is. There is a lot of information about the importance of Christian fathers being involved in their children's upbringing and in their journey in faith. A lot of people have said and believe that kids are far more likely to walk in the faith if their fathers were more involved in teaching them things having to do with faith and the Bible and God. But the thing is, it's hard for fathers to get involved. Sometimes when they're working full time, they don't know where to just jump in, and it can be overwhelming for fathers. I firmly believe in the importance of kids hearing from their fathers, though, and I believe it makes a really big difference. When my husband is more active in teaching the Bible and faith lessons, I find it makes a huge positive difference in our home. One thing I love about the curriculum that we use with My Father's World is that it has an easy to follow Bible outlined program, and it's very easy for my husband to just jump in on Sundays. And so on Sundays, he teaches the entire Bible portion for the week. That lightens my load for the upcoming week ahead, and it helps him to be involved and for the kids to hear his voice and to hear his mind on biblical matters. I get questions about how I make my kids do their schoolwork when they don't want to, and this is a great question. One of the reasons a lot of parents think they can't homeschool is because of this very issue. I do think that this is one of the advantages to homeschooling, though. It helps you to work with your children in gaining their trust and obedience, which makes for better relationships in the long run as they get older. In my experience, my boys have had a little bit of a harder time sitting still and doing their work, but of course, two of my boys do have clinically diagnosed ADHD. Boys in general, though, they seem to need more breaks to get up and run off energy. There's actually some scientific research I've done through the years about this. Look up myelination. I think I'm saying that right. I've read that it generally develops more slowly in boys than it does girls, and it has to do with cognitive and behavioral functioning. So I think one of the most important things is always make sure your child is actually ready for school before you start with them. There's all kinds of tests online you can do to see if your small child is ready. Another thing is, though, is you build up their attention spans. So you can start working with them for, just a short amount of time when they're very little and just build it up. There comes a time, though, with every child where they're capable of sitting there longer and finishing a page, but they just don't want to. So what is the cure for this? It took me years to learn how to do this, but one day I realized that if my child were in public school, they would not have a teacher sitting next to them all day long, prodding them to finish the page. So when my child gets to the point where they start trying to get out of schoolwork, I found that there are a couple different things to try. The first thing is make sure that the child is capable of doing what is in front of them. Make sure they're old enough. Little kids can't sit there for long periods of time, and it's not good for them to sit there for long periods of time. When they're little, try to cut things short before they get to the point of having a meltdown. So you gotta kind of pay attention. And if you think they're starting to get to where they're just getting exasperated and tired, it's okay for them to stop for now. What I like to do is say, hey, you know what, you can finish this page throughout the day. How does that sound? Essentially, take breaks as they need them and build up their attention span. My little guy likes cuddles. Some children, cuddles like that, where they get a regular hug or a pat on the back, will help them propel through the rest of their activities. And my little guy just came and asked me if I would scratch his back before the lesson. But the point is, a positive, loving pat on the back can go a long ways at encouraging these little ones and even the older ones to press forward with their work and give it their best shots. If they're older and do not have any learning disabilities or special needs, and as long as you're positive that they're capable of doing the work and that they're not struggling with a concept, the problem is that they're just being lazy. I found that if I say to them that they can sit there as long as they like, then I tell them I'm going to go start making their snack, or maybe I need to switch out a load of laundry or run to the restroom or something short like that. It almost never fails that when I get back, the page is finished. When you're sitting next to them, sometimes they need help, but sometimes it enables them to, whine and put off doing something. All right, so he's done, so I've dismissed him. We're going to do some reading in a little bit, but for now, he's going to go play for a few minutes, and I'm going to help my daughter over here. Oh, wait, she wants to finish her activity first, so we'll let her do that, and I will show you something. Guys, I'm working with a designer to design a new ultimate homeschool mom and homemaking mom planner, and I just got my cover for it today. This is the cover. I'm so excited to go through it. I need 2 planners, and I hate having to go between 2, and this doesn't work great for me. So what I'm doing is I'm working with a designer to design one that will work. My planner is going to be a digital package where you can print just what you need, and you are going to have to get your own binder for it. And so this is the binder I chose. I will link to this binder below. The house gets so messy on homeschool days because, again, the focus is definitely on lessons, not keeping the place as tidy as we probably should. With as many children as I have and as many grades as I'm teaching to, I find that I really need more student-led curriculums. So this year I prayed very hard over each and every subject for each and every child, and I feel like the Lord led me because it's working very well. Friday through Monday are days that I spend working on the homestead, preparing food for the week ahead, preserving food that's coming in from the garden, working my jobs, and then also on the first of the month, I plan all of the little details of the upcoming homeschool calendar for the kids so that they have one place they can go to look to see what they're supposed to be doing, and so that I have a place that I can go to see what it is I am supposed to be teaching. That little bit of planning at the first of the month helps tremendously to streamline our days, and it helps things to go a lot more efficiently. However, there are still days where, life happens. So it's not uncommon for us to have to save some catch up in school for Saturday and Sunday. We have a certain amount of activities and studies that we like to get done per week. And so if they don't get done, that means that we usually will do whatever's left over on the weekends. All right, we're about halfway through the day. My couple of the older kids got lunch going. I have reminders on our Alexa for when it's time to start lunch. So while the kids are starting to dish up their lunch, I am going to line out the next books that the kids still need to read today. And we're going to read those as a group. But one thing that I started doing is, instead of me doing the reading, the kids do the reading aloud. That way they're getting their read aloud practice. I have quite a few videos of our homeschool days. They are all saved in a playlist. My homeschool days are just now getting to a place where they're getting easier. So I have 2 kids with ADHD. It's been quite a journey. Our homeschool days are easier now than they've been in quite some time. For probably around maybe like a 6-year stretch, I was not able to do the part-time job that I had before. So starting in around 2019, I needed to step away from one of the part-time jobs because there was no way I could manage it and homeschooling the 6 kids, especially the first 2 years of teaching high school, along with the elementary grades and the middle school. Those were very hard years. It's just now getting easier. It's also hard when all you have are little kids. I have a few videos that address issues that we would face through those times, so you can find my playlist below. A lot of the videos are in a membership. It's a very low fee for the membership. The videos that I had done, they were not being found. They were not being seen by pretty much anybody. And so that's why I took the videos and I put them into a playlist for memberships so that people would realize that there was value there. Because before, I was just another homeschool mom among thousands with videos. People didn't realize that I actually had experience as a second-generation homeschooler and also a lot of years behind me of experience. So if you are in a place where you really need some help, be sure to check out my memberships for homeschool moms. I know that homeschooling, as a homeschooling parent, you don't have a lot of money, so I made it a very low membership fee, and I do not regularly add to those playlists. So once you've gone through everything and have got what you want, you'll probably want to unsubscribe because it's not like I regularly update that part of the memberships. I just simply put the videos in there that most of my audience wouldn't care about, but had a lot of value for the homeschool moms. In this scene, we're having leftover tacos, and the kids are listening to Farmer Boy on Audible. If you guys don't have Audible, I highly recommend it, especially as a homeschooling family. It's going to make your life a lot richer, and your homeschool mom journey will be a bit easier when you have audiobooks you can be playing instead of having to sit and read to the kids. Of course, with little kids, you still need to sit and read with them. That's really important. But when your kids start getting older and you have a lot of kids and you need to be doing something else with your time, like making dinner or making lunch, it is so nice to be able to just pop on an audiobook and everybody can be listening to it. In the afternoons, after school is done, we like to work together sometimes in the kitchen, and we will play audiobooks or, of course, listen to our favorite music.
Favorite drink when she was a kid.
Hold on to. I was
Can't say that. You cannot.
beneath your wing.
How many syllables do you need? 10.
In my under the sun. Something's changed. You can see
Yawn.
I'm going to give it to you straight. When you make a choice to become a homeschool parent, you're making the choice to become a less selfish person and a better person. And it's not always easy, not at all. But the good news is that even though you lose yourself, you end up finding a better version of yourself.
stay. Every
This is the afternoon reading, and I went and I got it all set out for the kids over here. So I cleaned off the table and I got all the books that they still need to do laid out for this afternoon. There are 2 books that are on audiobook that are not pictured here though. I laid things out for the elementary kids and the 8th grader. All right, the older kids are still wrapping things up, and the younger ones are going outside for their nature activities and studies. Soon everything is going to be covered in snow outside, and we want to get as much outside time in as we can right now. So for a botany lesson, and because it's also something that we have on our to-do list, we're going to plant some garlic outside. This is definitely one of those lessons that it's hard to put a label on, because do you call it botany, or do you call it horticulture, or do you call it just early elementary plant science? It's definitely fresh air time and fun time. We had some good laughs planting this. When you're a new homeschool mom, one of the hardest things to learn how to do is to intertwine teaching time with mothering time. Too often we separate the two when they really don't need to be separated. Life has lessons within each and every day. If you are observant and notice, you can take the opportunity to find things to teach your children. If you're exhausted, this doesn't work so well, so it's really important to be a rested mama and to practice proper self-care so that your brain is working properly and firing on all cylinders. Mornings are really good for book learning time. That's when the brain seems to work the very best, and you can plow through the language arts, the math, and a lot of the sciences. Afternoons are really nice for reading and history. Activities outside, that's in our experience.
No, we're not seasoning the dirt with the straw. We need to cover the garlic so it's protected. Stop there you go, that's more like it. All of this was just 2 weeks ago, full of vegetables. I'm missing summer.
In the late afternoon, we rotate kids, and 1 or 2 of them will come into the kitchen, and sometimes more, and we'll have a cooking lesson. We do this, 1, for the kids' benefit, so that when they leave our home, they know how to take care of themselves and cook for themselves and cook good food for themselves. And of course, the other reason is for quality time. Cooking with kids is a great way to spend quality time with them. And on the note of quality time, something about homeschooling that a lot of us end up overlooking and then feeling guilty about, and really shouldn't, is feeling like we don't spend enough quality time with our kids. If you're homeschooling, that can be made into quality time. So in these scenes, I am teaching the 3 oldest, but mainly the 2 oldest, how to can. My oldest 2 have been learning home ag for the last 2 years. We're working on a full credit for both of the kids. And so we're learning how to can certain foods and about food preservation. Not only is this a great way to spend quality time together, and are we making some really amazing memories, but the kids are able to put some of the lessons they've been learning in things like math math into action and actually apply what they've been learning. This is also a great way to wean kids off of too much screen time. So like a lot of families, we were struggling with this in our home, and we found that just bringing the kids into our world and bring them alongside us more often was all that was needed. And by doing this, the kids became a lot happier and of course healthier mentally and physically too, since they were more active.
How's the seasoning on the hamburger?
How's that? I don't.
It's my own concoction.
I hope this video has been helpful to you if you're just learning how to become a homeschool mom. And honestly, even if you've been doing this a while, you know how homeschool days can feel mundane at times. They can even feel unproductive some days. In those times, you can wonder if you are doing things right or if you're doing enough. If academics is important to you and you really want to do a great job and deal with feelings of anxiety and overwhelmed because of this, you may be sure you are messing it all up. One of the reasons I filmed this is not because I have it all figured out. It's just that there are not a lot of second-generation homeschool moms that have been doing this as long as I have, who are here on YouTube sharing their experiences. Since too many times in my own journey I have felt lost and alone, I want to help others avoid that. I've got 2 kids in high school now. One is about to graduate, and one mistake I made along the way was always thinking that my best wasn't good enough. Now that I'm able to look back in hindsight, I can clearly see now that it was beyond enough, because we were faithful to God's calling in doing this. And even though there were many times that I personally lost faith in the hard, overwhelming days, and even though it felt like God was not hearing my prayers sometimes and helping us, He was faithful and He was helping us. Looking back, it's clearer to see now. I have learned that when you do the best you can and you ask God for help to fill in the gaps, He does. There are many scenes in this video that I have not included simply because I probably forgot to. As complete as I tried to make this video, it's of course just one day, so it's not all conclusive as a picture of our homeschool. Also, like I said, it's just one day in our homeschool during one stage and right now. There are things that work for us in our homeschool that would never work for other families, just as there are things for other families that work that would never work for us. The stage that you're in your homeschooling journey makes a difference too. There are 3 major seasons or stages in homeschooling I found. There's the elementary stage, and then the middle school, and then you've got the high school, and they're all pretty different from each other. They all come with learning curves too. Another thing is family size matters, as does family circumstances. So, for example, a small family is going to have a very different looking day than a large family. It's also going to look very different if you have babies and small children in the mix. Although I do not have small babies in our homeschool anymore, I do miss them. 12 out of the 14 homeschool years that I've done now, we had babies and small children in the mix. I linked to my video below explaining how to homeschool multiple children with babies. Our homeschool has seen many stages, and I have other daily lives that you can find linked to below to see some of the other stages that we've homeschooled through. I also have a Q&A series for homeschool moms that you can watch, and it covers a lot of the most common questions. So what you saw in this video is just one stage of our homeschool and what works for us right now, and where we are at right now. We have experienced a lot though, and we have seen a lot of different transitions through the years. Love for your kids and leaning on Christ is what is going to get you far in this journey.